Happy Rom-Com Month, everybody. We are doing 28 Days of Love, and today is day 2. I am your host, Melissa Forziat. I'm a keynote speaker. When I speak, my topic is Take the Doughnut. It's another way to say Carpe Diem, and it comes from this strange thing that happened to me in college where I left an actual donut on a table. It became an object lesson for me in what it looks like to leave an opportunity behind. So I don't want to do that anymore. I want to take the donut. And the reason I'm saying this is that sometimes I'll issue myself a Take the Doughnut challenge. If there's something that I want to do, I'll make it official, I'll announce it, I'll make some videos about it, and it's a way to hold myself accountable. So this time I'm opening up this challenge to whoever wants to join. We're doing 28 days of rom-coms for the month of February. Again, today is day 2. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk about 500 days of summer today. And we're specifically going to talk about 10 things I love about that movie, except I'm not doing this alone. No. I have a guest. My guest is the one and only Anjl Rodee, who's the founder of BrushCapades. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited.
I can't wait to talk about this movie. It's so interesting and fun. First of all, before we do that, what should we know about you? And what is your background with this film? What should we know?
About this film, was my background with this film? Oh my gosh.
Or you as well.
Me. Shoot, not as interesting as the film. No, I own BrushCapades. It's a company that does corporate and private events to teach people about the importance of creativity. I'm also a improv comic, funnier than I look. And also I collect snow globes. Probably important. We'll find out.
Who's to say? We're going to find out today, maybe, or maybe we'll find out in another, because you're covering more than one movie.
I know.
This series, which is very exciting stuff. But today we're going to talk about 500 Days of Summer. Quick background on this one: it's from 2009. I can't believe it's from that long ago. It feels so much more recent than that to me. It was directed by Mark Webb. It's written by Scott Neustadter and Michael H. Weber. It stars Zooey Deschanel as Summer, Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Tom, Jeffrey Arend as Mackenzie, Chloe Grace Moretz as Rachel, Matthew Gray Gubler as Paul. And that's a little bit about this film. So how are we going to talk about it? Well, we're not doing a scene-by-scene recap. What we're doing is talking about 10 things we love about this film. I'm going to do the even numbers. Angel's going to do the odd numbers. We're going to count down. We're going to see what our favorite things are. So I'm going to start off with number 10. And actually, I feel like this was absolutely a perfect movie for you to join in on, Anjl, because this movie is very it's almost experimental in how, like, rom-coms don't do this. A lot of rom-coms try to keep it really cut and dry and simple. This is artistic in so many different ways. It plays with time. It moves forward. It moves backward. It's going to do whatever it wants to do. And it's just going to put a little intertitle on the screen with a little sunny day or gloomy day. And that's how you know where we are in time. It plays with style. It plays with artistry, the way that we get, like, artistic things drawn on screen sometimes in the style of architectural drawing. I love that. Like, the summer effect section is black and white. We get some stuff that's like almost film footage, like it's running through a projector. We get this like French experimental part. It's just really interesting. And it reminded me that at some point in the last however many years, I was listening to an interview with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and he was talking about a project of his called Hit Record. I think that was the title of it. And it was basically a platform that he had spearheaded and created where different creatives could come in and contribute on each other's projects fairly easily. So if somebody was working on a big thing, they could say, I need a little bit of this. I need a little bit of that. And somebody could say, do you need haikus? Like, they could just jump in and support each other on a project. And that's what this whole movie feels like to me.
It does. And to me, that was a little bit reflective about how life is and each stage we have in a relationship as well. Sometimes it just feels entirely different than a month ago felt. And so I thought that was a really great way to represent that as well. Yeah, that's something that I thought as well.
Yeah, and it works with his job too. Like, I don't know, there is, I guess, a certain creativity in having to come up with ideas for the greeting cards, but there's definitely creativity in how he thinks about architecture. So I think all of those different layers somehow end up in this movie and how they
Yeah.
show us stuff. So yeah, I mean, for me, I find it interesting when movies do unusual things and come at you in a slightly different way from what others have done.
Yeah.
So this really hits the spot for me.
Yeah, same. Most rom-com movies just take the same arc. The same arc. You can follow it, and you know how you know where the conflict is going to be, you know how it's going to resolve, they end up together. And also the character, which makes the characters kind of two-dimensional. Nobody was two-dimensional in this movie of the major characters. And I thought that was really, really cool as well.
Yeah. So, okay. So that was my number 10. What do you have for
Okay.
number 9?
What I have for number 9 is I loved how they, in the beginning of the movie, when he's talking about the things he loves about Summer, he lists off all of these things that some are obvious to anybody that knows Summer, and some are just things that only he knows because he's intimate with her. But that very same list becomes the list of things he hates about her at the end of the movie. I found that super interesting. You have to hate those things about them later, otherwise you don't get over that person. Yeah.
Oh, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. It's like the mystique is, it's not so much that the mystique has gone away, but you're making it go away because otherwise, how could you live?
You have to
Look
make
at this
it
guy.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Ah. Okay. I mean, number 9, it's bleak, but there it is.
Yeah.
They say
True.
it up front. This movie's not a love story.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. They tell you enough, just like people you've dated have told you enough, just like Summer told him enough. This isn't happening. Yeah, I don't want this to happen. This isn't going to happen. And he's like, okay.
It's like, and by that, I think you mean it's happening. Ah, yeah. Oh man. Just shout out to all the people pining for somebody out there, I don't know if this is your anthem or like I don't know if this is the movie you want to watch or the movie you should avoid if you're in that situation.
You know what? It's a good wake-up call movie, I would say. It's just a good be aware. Be aware.
Understand your surroundings. Look for your exits, that kind of thing. Oh my gosh. Okay. Number 8 goes to me. I think it goes with the whole tone of this film. The sarcastic comedy in this, there's a little bit more of an edge than you usually see in a rom-com, even from the beginning when he calls like I guess his ex a name, right? Like on screen. And they're like, oh, they're still putting words on screen here. And he's like, you bitch. But all throughout, if you listen in, people are just sort of like just get little digs in at each other, especially with the friend characters that he has.
Yeah.
But also like Rachel, like Tom says, what do you know about PMS? She's like, more than you, Tom. Like, or at one point we come back from a happy scene to a he's not feeling so great about things scene, and Tom says it's off. And his friend Paul says, was it ever on? And Tom's like, it could have been in a world where good things happen to me. Paul says, that's not really where we live. There's just stuff like that all up and down this movie. It's just like, ooh, edge.
Do you know what I love about that? The reality of that for me is that kind of good sarcasm is only something that is in safe, loving relationship that you can have that kind of biting thing without having to say just kidding. To me, that's a good relationship when you can stop saying just kidding after a thing is said. I love those.
Yeah, I just, this whole like there's a darkness about this movie.
Yeah.
All throughout the movie.
Yes.
And it's hard to tell sometimes, are we going to a hopeful place or not, but they set the tone in the beginning. This isn't a love story. So that type of comedy just fits in exactly right. Like, what are you doing, man?
Yes.
Get a hold of yourself, man. Yeah.
And I think that's part of what Tom's problem is, that underlying darkness that reads directly as neediness. Even, you know what I mean? I think that is what kept Summer from falling for him the way he wanted, because it did seem like all of his happiness was just directly related to her being in the picture. That's when he got really great at his job, right? And all of that, which kind of leads directly to my, what are we up to? Number
Number
five?
7.
Seven? Seven. Let's not rush this.
Don't skip out on the people want to see these numbers, okay? Number 7.
Number 7 is the postcoital dance flash mob. Kind of related, right? Because not only was he really good at his job, but he's Saturday Night Living it down the street, and people are shaking his hands and joining in, and then they're all doing some kind of flash mobby dance, and animated birds appear, and that's not his what do you call it, ground zero. It's not his baseline. That's not his baseline. That's his summer baseline. That's a lot of pressure to put on another person, and I think she felt that pressure, but I love that scene. It gave me a little bit of joy to watch him be that happy about it. But again, that underlying darkness, a thing all the way through the movie. Yeah,
It really is, because you always know what's coming after those happy moments. And I think when the sun shines brightly on Tom, it shines really bright, but
yes,
then there's a shadow.
yeah,
And it's rough, and it's coming. Um,
yeah.
it's
You know
like,
what's really weird? Personally speaking, I have been both people in relationships at one time or another, but I've been the and so yeah, it's just interesting to me that it's not who you are, it's where you are, it's where you're at, which is why Summer gets married to the next guy, in the thing, because that's not who she is, it's where she was at. And that's where Tom was at as well. Wasn't a good mix.
yeah. Uh, so true. Well, let's go to number 6 on this list. And I suppose it's a cousin of the one you mentioned, but I'd say the soundtrack.
Mm,
I don't know if I clocked every single song in this, but there are some that I really did. Like There Goes the Fear by Doves, which is also in Catch and Release, which is another film that's on this rom-com movie list. Sweet Disposition from The Temper Trap. Anytime I hear that, it's a good day. Like that's going to make a good movie. The use of bookends by Simon and Garfunkel was super powerful in the way they used it. And then like the energy of Vagabond by Wolfmother. There's just a lot of songs in this that aren't necessarily your typical go-to songs.
right.
Maybe the Temper Trap song became more popular at a certain point, but I just love the energy it brings to this movie.
Yeah.
And to have something like as sort of solemn as Bookends and then something like stuff with more energy, you really need to match that in the sounds that we're hearing. So I gotta say, the soundtrack, it's a good one.
It's really good, and really fit with the characters as well as the storyline. Yeah,
Yeah.
really good.
So, I mean, enough said. Number 6
Yeah,
soundtrack.
really. That's just it right there.
But
Uh,
number 5, what do you have for
Number
that?
5, I liked that Tom quit his job when he started to come back up for air again. To me, that was a little bit of positivity that came out of that thing. I mean, if Summer never would have happened, he might have just coasted through the rest of his life at this job that he didn't really like. And in some way, it inspired him to um, be better, and not for her, she was already gone, but for himself. And I think that was a real turning point for him and his how he sees himself. So I thought that was really pretty huge.
Yeah. I find it, I guess, I don't know, maybe it says something about me, but I find it inspiring that sequence where it's like the montage of him getting down to business with the
Mhm.
architecture stuff. But I guess when I really think about it, if I'm trying to think about like, is this man balanced? Like, I guess he is being as intense about the way he throws himself into that as he was about how he threw himself into this relationship with Summer.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Is that good or is that not good? But I do think like the architecture as a path has more possibilities to it. Summer is just one person.
Mhm,
and it
mhm.
works or it doesn't work, whatever happens. But architecture is so many different opportunities, so many different potential jobs. And I think it's a path that, in theory, is much more in line with his interests.
Mhm.
So I guess I feel better that he does throw himself into that.
Yeah.
But when I first saw this movie, I remember being like, yeah, it made me like want to get up and work out or like get up and
Yeah.
go do spreadsheets. Because it just felt like, yeah, he's taking control of things he didn't have control of before.
Yeah. Well, I think fear is a real thing in just all areas of everybody's life, right? And fear and safety, fear and lack of safety, and staying where you're at, even though it's not someplace you're happy, it's something you know. And sticking with something you know is something a lot of people do in a lot of areas in their life, whether it's a relationship or a job or a friend group, even. And so, to me, it was a an exercise in bravery that I thought was really cool.
Well, let's talk about the opposite of that. I know we've been focusing a lot on Tom. I'm going to keep doing that in number four here. Um, just how haggard they make him look. There, boy, there are just sometimes you just get that first. You see the number of the day, and then it's kind of like a gray color, and you're like, oh no, and then you flash to a look at Tom, and it's always like bloodshot eyes or big bags, and like it's just always horrific. He must have had some makeup process on that day. Because they just make him look like he's just disheveled and exhausted. Like, it's so
They do
dreary.
a great job of not just wearing his heart on his sleeve, but wearing his heart on his whole being. Yeah, it's very transparent, very well done.
Can you just imagine like actually being his boss, his supervisor? Just like, do you address it? Do you not address it? It's just like
It was that
it's
guy.
yeah, it's been a day or it hasn't been a day. That you just instantly the second he sets foot, like he gets off that elevator and there it is.
Yeah.
This is the mood. I mean, and it gets like so dark, like him singing karaoke, just taking it all out on the world. It's in his face and it's in his demeanor. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, man, so good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and shout out to the people who did the makeup as well, because
Yes.
good
Yeah.
work.
Good work.
You cracked
Yeah.
me up. Um, okay, number three goes to you.
Number three. We talked a little bit about, did we talk a little bit about Autumn, the girl he met after?
No.
Yeah, well, my other favorite thing is I think it's the first time in the movie that they break the fourth wall, is he meets the girl outside of the interview for the architecture space, and they have a nice little moment, and he asks her name, or they introduce, and he asks her out, and she says, "My name is Autumn, by the way." And he breaks the fourth wall and looks at the camera, um, like, "Oh, here we go again." And it was so much happened in my brain at that moment. It's like, "Oh, yay, he's going for it again," or oh no, but oh yay, but oh no. um so much in there. I have no doubt it might be the same cycle again until he finds the next person. But so much ambiguity there, and it was just such a loaded moment
Yeah.
in like.
I'm curious what people think about this actually, because okay, well, first of all, shout out to Minka Kelly. She was in Friday Night Lights, the show. I think that's her name,
Mm,
right? And it's fun to see her in just this brief moment. She lights up the screen. I'm very curious what that sort of button on the end of this movie, how people feel about it. Does
mm,
it give you hope, or does it give you the feeling that we're going to now do this cycle all over again for another 500 days with Autumn? I I think it's sort of a Rorschach test.
mm,
So I um I can see the discouragement you can have with
Mm-hmm.
this. But one thing that they gave her as a line to say that actually resonates long and loud with me and makes me feel not like it's necessarily going to be exactly the same thing. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
think he's probably intense in his relationships. He's a long-term relationship guy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But she says, to paraphrase it, she's like, "Oh, yeah, I've seen you in the park." He's like, "Oh, I've never seen you there." She's like, "Well, I guess you weren't looking for me." She has been watching him. She's
Yeah.
been noticing him, and she wasn't on his radar. And that is not how it started with Summer. That's not how it started at all. So
Yeah.
I think, there is a nuance, a change in how this begins.
Mm-hmm.
I do still think that he will be very serious about her, but maybe this is one where she'll be serious back and it actually started with her. So maybe there'll be some sort of balance in that. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. Another thing that I thought as I rewatched this movie the other day, somebody very recently introduced me to um, romantic types, which these are all new terms for me. I'm going to mess them up right now because I didn't write them down. But there's the anxious, needy, and the resistance, whatever that one is. That was Summer in this one, and he was the anxious, needy.
Mhm.
And there's maybe a mat. Maybe they're supposed to be together, an anxious need and anxious needy. That makes it sound so negative. I don't think it is. Maybe it is. I'm biased. But one thing that I thought, the first thought that came in my mind, and whoever's watching this, put in the comments what you think. But my first thought was when I tell people about, I've been serial dating my entire life. And what I tell people when that comes up is I have had the pleasure of falling in love many times, which is the best part of these things. That's my mindset. And so that's where I went with him. It's like, oh, yay, falling in love. And I think if your mindset is everybody breaks up with me or no, none of my relationships last, then that's how you look at it. Life does what life does, but you get to decide how that story is written. And that's what I thought when I wrote that, when I saw that. What
Yeah.
about, what was your first thought?
I think this is going to be different, but just a little bit.
Mm,
I think that like the first real, he was so like going gaga over Summer
mhm,
from the
mhm,
moment she first set foot in the
mhm,
office, and she didn't even really register him until I think they sort of attribute it to that moment in the elevator when she comments on the Smiths.
mhm,
Um,
mhm,
where it's like their first real meaningful interaction, or at
mhm.
least it's the first one I think they show in the movie, and then I don't know with the time jumps, but
Right.
I think she just he wasn't on her radar. And I
Right.
think the fact that in this situation, Autumn wasn't on his, it inherently changes the script.
Mm,
So it can't be exactly what it was.
right.
And maybe that's just the shakeup that he needs. I
Yeah.
I do think that he is armed with an intensity, but I feel like she is too, Autumn.
Mm, mm.
And I want to say that that's going to be a more balanced match. Whether that's a good match or not, I don't know. I'm not an expert on these
Oh,
things. So
no.
whether you want opposites or whether you want somebody who's like you, I'm not sure. Um, but she seems to be like a little more even keeled in her delivery when
Mhm.
they meet. So he doesn't even really know that she's seen him before and we don't know. So we don't see her for the first time and see her just like gum 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 like it's just like she's flat and even but she knows him.
Yeah.
And I think this could be okay. Um but hey, what red flags am I missing? Because I'm sure there's a bunch, right? I mean, I really wonder with this, like how people feel when they get to the end of it. And I
Yeah.
bet for all the people watching, it's like a
Yeah.
pretty big split, if I had
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Um,
guess.
yeah.
Yeah. I think that he had so little passion in his life before Summer, and he dumped it all on Summer, the need for the passion anyway, and he's already balancing that out a little bit more with finding more passion in his work and the things he's interested in. So you're not putting as much pressure on the other person. Autumn did feel balanced as well. So I think that's working in their favor. And who knows, things work out or don't work out for the weirdest reasons sometimes.
And not that this was a circumstance with Summer, because I think Tom and Summer's jobs were different enough in that same office that there wasn't a competitive spirit to their work.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a potential for that, it seems like, for Tom and Autumn. But the way they meet makes me feel like they're going to find a way to put that on a shelf.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like if as almost complete strangers, they're going for the same exact job and they can both be like about it, then that probably bodes well for them, because this could be a pitfall. This could be a problem for them in the future, but it feels a little like they'll be supportive of each other in the process. Maybe I'm just hoping for the best. Maybe this is me in my rose-colored glasses, ready to see all the good things. Yeah. Because I mean, I'm coming off of being excited about how haggard he looked, so I don't know what to tell you. Well, let's go to number 2 on the list. And I want to mention Summer here finally. I mean, first of all, Zooey Deschanel, I think, is a great choice. She's like all the things. She's a mystery, but she's so clear. She's depressed, but she's balanced. She's realistic, but she's all the things that don't go together. And somehow it all kind of works on that frame. But I really, the line that always stuck out to me the most is when they're in the park at the end, and she says, "I woke up one day and I knew." He's like, "What?" She's like, "What I was never sure of with you." And she goes on, she says, "I kept thinking Tom was right. It just wasn't me you were right about." Those 2 lines, but particularly the first one, just so well written.
Yeah.
And the thing is, that first one, "I knew what I was never sure of with you," is a real dagger to the heart, for him. But somehow she delivers it in a way that hurts, but isn't intended to be biting.
Right.
And you know that it's not. I think it's very clear that she's not just trying to shut him up. She's like, this is the truth. This is the matter of fact.
Yeah.
I was never sure about it with you, and I am now, and I'm happy. And it's gonna hurt him to hear it.
Yeah.
But she wasn't trying to hurt him when she said it. And I think a line like that, beautifully written the way it is and delivered the way that it's delivered, has all these things that you can put onto it. And I felt like exactly the right piece of the puzzle in the movie at that moment to me.
Let's talk about that.
Okay.
Because it was perfectly the right piece of the puzzle in that moment in the movie. Is it something then that maybe happened in Tom's head and didn't actually happen? Because would this newly married woman who recently broke somebody's heart and then re-broke it when she invited him to this party, would she sit there and wait for him to have this conversation? Is this closure for her? Did she want to have closure with him? Did he want the closure so he made this up? Or I'm confused.
Do you think they went as far as to make up the entire thing that she was there at all? Or just how the conversation went?
Whether she was there at all.
Okay, so if we look back, so the only way I can really address that is if we look back at the rest of the film earlier than that. I feel like most of the time it was, the mismatch wasn't he invented a situation where she was there and she wasn't. It was more like she was there and she was doing things, but they weren't the things he was interpreting that she was doing.
Yeah, I hear you.
So if we kind of follow that track to the park, then I would if we stayed consistent with it, then I would say she was there, which is perhaps confusing, but how that conversation went, he may be an unreliable narrator
Mm.
about it.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So
That
I don't know. What do you think? Because I feel like this is something that really struck you and maybe you've been
it
pondering.
really did. It really did strike me because all I kept thinking was, man, this she is the queen of mixed messages, right? From the I don't want anything to making out in the copy room to I don't want anything to hot stuff to I don't want anything. Um, at the same time, if everybody reads something according to their own actions, their own supposed actions in the same situation. If somebody, I'm a sarcastic human. So if I say something sarcastic, I mean it to be funny because I mean nobody any harm. But somebody who's sensitive might hear, well, if I had said that, I would mean this horrible thing. So you must have meant that horrible thing. We read everything through our own filter. And so at that moment, I am thinking, whose filter am I looking at right now? Am I looking at Tom's filter? Because then everything is super confusing. I guess I kind of don't understand Summer's filter because we didn't get into her character or intentions nearly as much as we went into Tom's, right?
Hmm.
So why did she throw herself at him several times and also say to him, I don't want anything serious? What's going on in her head? We never heard the why it never worked out. We just heard at the end, I never felt that with you. You
Yeah.
know?
And there is a certain unreliability in everything that we've seen.
Hmm.
And I only say that because, when we get that moment with Rachel, where she's like, okay, I know it hurts you that you've broken up, and I know you think that was this great relationship, but I wonder if you looked back at it with no bias about it, would it look the same? Yeah, I just made
Mm.
up all those words, but that was the essence of
Yeah,
what she said.
yeah,
Like,
that was
look
the
back
gist.
and tell me that it was actually as good as you remember it is. And then we do see him start to look back and reposition his memories. Like the thing the line that he remembered her saying, but then the look that she gave or the way the body language that she had when she delivered it was completely different than the first time we saw the scene. So
Yeah,
it makes you then revisit everything you saw before that and say, uh, was all of this like, do we actually know her at all?
yeah,
Or was this all just his like projection of what he thought he was seeing from
yeah.
her and his best case scenario of it
Right,
and his
right,
hopeful interpretation of it?
right.
So maybe we know nothing. And maybe that's exactly what it's supposed to be.
Also accurate. This leads so perfectly to my number one, which is the split screen scene, the rooftop party.
Yep.
That just what he thought it was going to be and what it actually was, and where it was the same, where it split, where it came back together and crashed. Um, just a super intense, powerful man. You felt it because you lived both of them by watching both of them at the same time. It was just so great, so well done. Uh, yeah, that
So
was
inventive too, to really
yes,
make it what a way to communicate so many different things at once, like both what's actually happening in the story and the incredible disconnect between these humans.
yeah, yeah, so good. I mean, they could have used that effect in different parts that were different, but they didn't, which gave this more impact, I think. And yeah, that was really powerful.
Yeah. You know, um, it makes me think, I guess, kind of going back to the park as well, but because we're on summer, I think, first of all, I love that that's your number one. I think that ties in beautifully with the whole experimental thing about this film and just the way
Mhm.
they communicate stuff. When they're in the park and he's like, I don't believe in love anymore. And she's like kind of smiling to herself. Again, we don't know whose perspective this is really from and what the
Right.
truth is here. But I think in a movie that was written differently, she might have said something like, "You helped me put these rose-colored glasses on." Like, I love is for sure a thing because you made me believe it and now I'm in love. Like I guess this movie didn't go there. I think that might have been the more obvious path.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
this one was like, I mean, look, I was reading a book in a place I could have been anywhere. I could have been not there. I could have been a million other places, but I was there at that time in that moment and found this guy. Um, and like, so she just tells this story instead of like, fate was there and I was receptive to it now. And it's still like she's taking the ownership of it and she's not putting it back on him.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't know, it's this very interesting thing to me. But yeah, the reality versus what you think you're seeing.
yes,
I think that's the whole movie, really.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Another movie that's kind of like that is He's Just Not That Into You.
Mm,
It's such a powerful sentence, you know, that don't read into anything. It's just so hard. Just
yeah. I mean, I don't know how to tell you not to do it. Like, that would be crazy. Look, for all the people who have just had a crush, like it happens. You know what? It
yeah,
happens. These things are real.
yeah. These things are real.
And, like he was obviously, even if we're seeing the whole movie from his perspective, he thought he was seeing enough from her
Yeah,
that there were hints. I mean, how how much can you misremember shower sex? Like there's certain things that like if she was there, she was there.
yes,
Like don't tell me about body language. So there's certain things that are like okay, clearly she was giving him some mixed messages, but
yeah,
how much was it? Like hard to say.
yeah. Was it mixed messages, or was she really trying? Was she really trying to be in love with Tom and, giving it what she knew to give, and then just never had the click. And if she'd never had the click before, because she said she'd never felt it,
Hmm.
yeah,
It's true. Maybe she wanted to feel that way. Maybe,
mhm,
like, what could be better than this? This guy who's like madly in love with me and, thinks the sun rises and falls on me and
mhm,
believes in love and believes in all these positive things around it. Like, wouldn't that be nice if
yeah,
that were actually the truth?
yeah,
Um, and then at some point, maybe she just doesn't believe it anymore. Yeah. This conversation actually threw Summer all into chaos for me. Uh, Here I was thinking I knew something about her, but maybe I know nothing. And I have to accept it.
yeah. I mean, like I said before, we read everybody through our own lens, right? So if I'm listening to her dialogue, I'm like, if I'm saying that, this is what I meant about that. Not necessarily the case. I mean, and whether relationships work out or not, sometimes just depends on the mood you're in or how sick your mom is, or you know what I mean. Other factors that have nothing to do with how cool the other person is.
Yeah. Ah, I mean, this was really interesting for me. I hope it was for all of you as well. That was 10 things we love about this film. So, everybody who's watching this is where you jump in. First of all, we asked a lot of questions. We understand the movie less than we did at the start of this, and it's great and wonderful. But tell us, first of all, your takes. Also, tell us what you love about
Mm,
this film. I'm sure there's a lot of other things that we left out that you could easily mention.
yeah.
So, let us know what you think. And before we close out, Angel, just I know you got a chance to say a little bit about what you do earlier, but is there anywhere where people can follow you or anything you have coming up that you want to make sure people are aware of?
I'm working on a book called A's for Aneurysm, so please look for that I'm hoping within 2 months to have it launched. So yeah, late spring. And
Okay.
yeah, I offer public classes on my website, which is brushcapades.com. So look that up if you want to learn how to art. I'm thinking about launching something that's close to your Take the Doughnut, which is Embrace the Stick Man. It's close. What do you think?
Yes, let's do it. We'll do them back to back. It'll be donuts and stickmen in the room, and that's how we do it.
Yes.
I love this. Oh my gosh. And not for nothing, but check out the rom-com month list because Angel's coming back. We're going to talk about like Sleepless in Seattle. We're going to talk
Yeah.
about Benny in June.
Hmm.
And all of those things have a tie to you. So I am excited to explore them. Um, so yeah, everybody be on the lookout for those things. But next time, the next movie we are covering in rom-com month tomorrow is it's going to be day 3. We're going to talk about Notting Hill from 1999. This one has Hugh Grant and Julia Roberts. And the special guest that will be joining me to cover that film is Danielle Turchiano from the Made Possible by Pop Culture podcast. She was a journalist, an entertainment journalist, so she knows a lot about the industry, and we're going to talk a lot about that angle of it as well. So everybody be sure to look out for that one. And in the meantime, happy rom-com month, everybody. Get love, get donuts.
Bye.